Hello and welcome back to CWU Live. We have a show on the United Tech and Allied Workers section of the union today, and we have a hell of a lot to cover. I'll introduce that in a moment. First of all, though, let's introduce our panel. We have Edwin Dawley, Tech Sector Support Coordinator. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Eleanor Payne, Tech Sector Support Coordinator, to my right, and Shireen Assaw, UTAW Education Officer. I want to begin by just sort of getting all of you to explain what you do for the union. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go on.
What do? I design the T-shirts. I'm the merch man. I make sure our members are the best dressed on the picket line. That's my main purpose in life. And then, help workers make sure they've got the tools that they need to organise online, make sure they've got the training they need. So, work with lots of members online, mostly working with members at Apple at the moment.
Shireen?
So I'm the education officer. My role just kind of involves us going in and figuring out what you need to organize in your company. If that's like additional training, we'll do that. If there's anything that you want to learn more about, I can help you organize training for you and your company. Anything like that, really.
And what kind of trainings, sort of like your rights in the workplace or how to organize a protest? What kind of thing are we talking about?
All of the things. I even do data safety and stuff like that.
I could do with that.
You
Eleanor, tell me about you. What do you do for the union?
Yeah, so a bit similar to Edwin, but I'm mostly focusing on TikTok. So organising all the workers at TikTok, helping them get what they need at TikTok too. Yeah,
and we're going to talk about TikTok a bit later. We made a video about the TikTok campaign just over a month ago. Went to their demonstration. Very nice to meet everyone who was a part of that campaign. So we'll get updates a little bit later. Later in the show, we're going to be focusing on a couple of issues in detail. So one concerns union organising in an Apple store in Cambridge and the pretty low tactics used by Apple to try to disrupt the effort to achieve recognition. And we'll also look at the complete opposite end of the tech production line. So obviously retail is one end. At the other end is people mining the core inputs to tech products, in this case in Congo. First, though, we have some news in the tech and jobs sector, or what that will interest people working in the tech sector. So we're going to go through some of them. I'll get some views from our panel. Let's begin with a story from Amazon in the United States, which has been making headlines. It's confirmation from Amazon this week that the company has replaced 14,000 human workers with robots. It's being called the first wave of a massive round of layoffs. How Amazon have said the number could rise to 30,000 people losing their jobs. The jobs in question are from the corporate sector or corporate department of Amazon. So this is people working in headquarters as opposed to delivery centers. The cuts come amid Amazon increasing achieved profits and revenues. So one might think, why are they cutting jobs when revenues are increasing? Well, this is what the HR lead for the company said in a public note. So she said, some may ask why we're reducing roles when the company is performing well. What we need to remember is that the world is changing quickly. This generation of AI is the most transformative technology we've seen since the internet, and it's enabling companies to innovate much faster than ever before. The idea that this is just a case of jobs being automated has been questioned, though, including by AI analyst Nate B. Jones.
Amazon laid off 30,000 people today. The narrative is that this is about AI replacing jobs. The reality is very different, and I want to be really precise about it because it gets at corporate structure and finance and not really at AI in the way you think. So when people think AI layoffs, they think the robots are doing the jobs now, and therefore we are having layoffs. No, the people who are doing the jobs are more stressed if they're still at Amazon, but the AI automation story isn't actually hitting those jobs. What is hitting those jobs and is related to AI is the cost of chips. So NVIDIA sells chips to everyone, GPUs. Those chips are how we power AI. And none of the major cloud providers can get enough chips right now. Microsoft can't, Google can't. Google's in an easier spot. They have TPUs. And Amazon definitely can't. In fact, people don't know this, but AWS has a roughly 25% burning backlog on GPUs. In other words, they are missing out on revenue because companies are begging for more compute from AWS that they can't fulfill because they can't buy GPUs because they only had so much budgeted to buy GPUs.
So the argument there, it's not that these jobs are being actually replaced by robots, it's that the company needs to spend loads of money on GPUs, which is the bits of tech that are used for AI, and that's why they're having to cut these jobs. So it might just get harder if you're one of the people who still have a job. And we're going to talk about AWS, Amazon Web Services, in a moment. Just one more bit of news from Amazon. Again, with this narrative that automation is going to sort of destroy jobs, this time in distribution centers. This was laid out in a report for ABC last week.
This morning, concerns that Amazon, the second largest private employer in the country, is planning one of the biggest workplace transformations in modern history.
In a fulfillment center, the Cardinal robot will pack packages into carts.
The New York Times, citing leaked documents, reports Amazon expects sales to double by 2033, growth that would normally require 600,000 more workers. But the company is reportedly looking to fill those jobs with robots and automate 75% of its operations.
We could do this with our robot. We could do this with our technology. That's what we're going to do.
In the near future, Amazon reportedly estimates automation could help it save more than $12 billion and shave about 30 cents off each item it ships. In a statement, Amazon said the leaked documents reflect the perspective of just one team and don't represent our overall hiring strategy, adding that the company is actively hiring and plans to fill 250,000 positions for the holiday season.
One of the things that we've been proud of over our 10-year history is the ability to develop robots that work well alongside people.
It comes amid growing fears of technology replacing human workers. The so-called godfather of artificial intelligence has been sounding the alarm.
If I worked in a call center, I'd be terrified. If I was someone like a legal assistant, a paralegal, they're not going to be needed for very long. For mundane intellectual labor, AI is just going to replace everybody.
Well, Amazon has said it's busy training human workers for high-paying jobs that will include working with robotics.
That was Jeffrey Hinton, the so-called godfather of AI, saying that he would be terrified if he worked in a call center. We have actually done shows with Karen Rose, who's Deputy General Secretary for Telecoms, about how AI is affecting the telecoms sector. And we might cover that on this panel as well. Elena, let's begin with you, though, on this Amazon story. I know you've been following this. Sort of, what should people know?
Well, I wish I'd kind of brought a notepad because there was loads of stuff. But to start off that first HR note, firstly, it said nothing, and it kind of was completely ignoring the fact that the business isn't growing for anyone. Like, who is it growing for? When it says, oh, we're able to, excel much quicker with AI, what's the point if nobody has any jobs? Like, do you feel like you're getting a better service at Amazon when they've made 40,000 layoffs? And then the second bit about that you've just talked about the call centers, that's also, I think, quite like a slight reading of what's happening, because AI isn't just going to come for those, what he called like manual jobs. It's currently coming for, like you said, the corporate jobs. It's coming for all types of jobs, whether they are actually being cut because of AI or it's like cost-cutting exercise for bigger profits.
I suppose when they say it's growing, what they'll mean is sales are up.
Exactly.
Sales are up and they can reduce costs. So I suppose, do you think that's a mistake? Do you think that they're going to get bit in the ass when they realize that actually they've replaced too many people with robots, or they've sacked too many people and bought data chips instead? Yeah,
well, that's because that's the thing. They're not actually really replacing them. It remains to be seen. But we have a workplace that we were organising with at UTAW. They were let go under the guise of AI, that we call it, and then were rehired 2 years later. So it's not like unheard of that does happen, where like many employees are let go and then they're just brought back or they're often brought back like under fire and rehire at much lower pay.
Yeah, there was one company that made a big fuss about that, wasn't there? That sort of said we're laying off everyone and going to AI, and then re-employed them all. I can't remember which one it was.
I can't either.
We'll look that up the next time we play a clip. TikTok. We said we'd give an update on that. This is probably the appropriate time because we're talking about sort of layoffs, which are being described as having something to do with AI replacing people. In the last video we did about this, there were lots of people from the safety department being laid off. As far as I understand, that's now spread. There are even more people being laid off. So can you give us an update of what's going on there? So
as like a brief overview, and then I'll do the update. About 2 months ago, TikTok made a big splash in the media saying that they were opening a new office and hiring 500 new people. 2 weeks later, they let go almost 500 people. And then in the last 2 weeks have announced more redundancies again. So the big group of almost 450 workers were in their like moderation safety department, which is, you know, it's the front line between you and like harmful illegal content. So the billion people that use TikTok, they're the people that stop you from basically being harmed online. So they are currently in the process of going. So most of them have actually gone now. So almost 450 less jobs in London. TikTok have said externally and internally actually to the people that are going that it's because AI has got much better and like moderation doesn't need to be done by humans. And in lots of ways that's good because the content that moderators see is like traumatic. So actually like any moderator, as much as they love and they are very proud of their job, doesn't want to see that extremely traumatic stuff. But the reality is they're offshoring it to places with like very few employer rights, where they can pay like $1 a day, and hiding the inefficacy of AI that way.
The company in question was Klarna. He said he'd replaced 700 customer service workers, but by 2025 found he needed to bring quite a few of them back. So some of them got their jobs reoffered to them. I suppose those TikTok workers that have left, did they get decent redundancy packages, or how did that work?
Well, it depends on what your view of decent is, right? They got more than the statutory, like the legal allowance, which is like, or the legal requirement of a week per year served. But for getting let go 2 months before Christmas in a job market where already like a month later Amazon have announced they're cutting loads, like it's not really enough. It's not going to keep them through to next year. And a lot of the employees are on visa. They're reliant on their work for visas. So yeah.
Because my understanding is that when it comes to, so more common than layoffs actually probably is companies not hiring anyone because they're not sure what jobs AI is going to be able to do in the next 2 or 3 years. So they don't want to hire someone for a long-term contract when they think that this might be the kind of job that could be automated soon. So I suppose just from your networks, is this a difficult time to try and get a job as a tech worker in London? Because does it seem like people are holding off on hiring, or is that not really something going on?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely there's definitely a lot of kind of speculation on the future of the jobs from the point of view of the companies. I mean, realistically, they're just trying to save money overall. So yes, they're assuming that they're going to save money in the future. But realistically, what it means is that people are just being asked to do more with the same amount of time they have. The amount of labour is going up, but the same amount of work is still required. It's not being replaced by AI.
But are there fewer vacancies? Kind of, is that your sort of sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about data centres, obviously very much related to this. You can't automate anything without a data centre. The government are pleased that the company Equinox has decided to build a £4 billion data centre just outside the M25. Here's a short Sky News report from the site.
It might not look like much now, but this field next to the M25 is going to be home to a new £4 billion data centre. It's the kind of former greenbelt land that the government is hoping will power its new industrial revolution with massive data centres. Equinix, who are pledging to put the money into this site, are promising to keep more than half of it as a green space.
We'll be retaining all of the existing high-value woodlands and streams, and we'll be planting thousands more trees. We'll convert a lot of this monoculture arable land into wildflower meadows, putting in ponds, and over 50% of the plot will remain as green space.
So that data center will likely be filled with chips designed by the American firm NVIDIA. So Equinox is building the data center. They will be buying the chips, and they'll be buying them from NVIDIA. NVIDIA designed the chips. They actually get made in Taiwan by TSMC. But news about NVIDIA this week is they are the first company to have hit a $5 trillion market cap. And I was looking up this today. They have only 36,000 workers, so a market cap of 5 trillion with 36,000 workers is unheard of, essentially. Who wants to come in and talk about NVIDIA, who they are, why they matter?
I mean, I can talk a bit about NVIDIA. Like NVIDIA they have kind of, I suppose there's the consumer-facing business that they have. So lots of people are familiar with them as being the company that make components in their computers. They make the graphics cards in their gaming PCs or whatever it is. And then essentially they manufacture the exact same product at scale, which is, again, GPUs, graphics cards, but used in data centers. And these are primarily for AI applications. So all of these companies, Amazon, all of these big players OpenAI are buying massive numbers of chips from NVIDIA, more than NVIDIA can fulfill, as I understand it, to power the infrastructure of the internet. Essentially, you have last week we saw AWS, Amazon struggling to keep up with demand, and a huge part of the internet kind of crashing because of it. So they're kind of powering between those two organizations. You've got kind of one that are providing the infrastructure for a huge part of the internet, and then you've got NVIDIA who are providing the actual hardware that powers a lot of it.
The chips that fill the data center. So Equinox, I think, is a company that builds a data center which will then hire that data center out to different companies. It will be filled with NVIDIA chips made by TSMC. Normally when there's sort of an announcement of a big international investment into a country, the trade union in that sector is generally quite pleased. It's a vote of confidence in the country. Are you guys, is this a vote of confidence in the tech sector in the UK, and that it's brilliant that this big data center is being sort of constructed here?
No, because ultimately it's going to create about 3 jobs. It'll create like a few security jobs, people patrolling the building, but it's not going to create any. It won't create any jobs or real investment in the UK. What it will do is take a lot of our energy and water supplies and make it much, much more expensive for anyone, whether you're working tech or not, to heat your house.
Does it mean that tech companies in general, because obviously tech companies want to use the services provided by these data centers, so even if there's not many people employed directly by the data center, will it make data, let's say, relatively cheaper for British companies, which will make this a more important tech hub? I mean, it's quite a high-level economic question, but I don't know. We can have a stab at an answer. I don't know.
I'm looking at Edwin because I feel like you would know, but I don't. It doesn't, right? It's basically an export that it's like a weird export in that it's done here, so it's using the resources in the UK, but it goes, and all the profits go to NVIDIA or.
Yeah. I mean, the profits aren't seen in the UK, and really it's compute and data, which is sort of a global thing.
Yeah.
I suppose what I mean is, if you had if someone was going to build a big, wind turbine mill for electricity, that might not employ many people, but it will make electricity cheaper in that region, which will be good for business, because businesses like cheap electricity. And I don't know if the analogy works.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't translate directly like that.
So we don't care where the data center. They could be anywhere.
They could be anywhere, and they often are in places where people are usually poorer. I think it's quite unusual.
Outside the M25.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's a bit unusual seeing this happening in the UK, to be honest. And I think it kind of speaks on how the UK's economic future is looking for a lot of companies, to be honest.
I mean, data and compute as a resource. It's not like a company builds a big data center and then everyone in the country sees their iCloud storage get cheaper. It doesn't work like that.
That would be good, though.
I mean, America is building a lot, and they're a rich country, but I suppose they don't build it in the richest states.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if there are many in Canada.
And the reason that we're getting this one is because the UK government wants to think that they're investing a lot in tech in our country, but they're not. They really are.
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's anything more to add to that. You've kind of summed it up, haven't you? They're going to say, look, here's some shiny new boxes, and everyone will be able to see the boxes. So everyone will think, oh, wow, that's positive. Oh, we're moving forwards. But it will have no real impact except for, like you're saying, your water bill will definitely go up. You're going to see an increase, I think, in maybe the country or around that area. It's going to be a lot hotter, for sure. The environmental damage will be awful as well. And I guess these companies, based on how they work and how they're structured, I think if you're looking at their shareholder structure, what they really want is to keep increasing the price of the services that they're going to provide you with. So regardless of whether the data center is here, there, or whatever, the price for you will always be increasing. It's not going to go down, okay?
Yeah. I mean, Moore's law does mean that prices in computing do normally go down, but I don't know if that's...
Well, no, go on.
Well, we're just using more energy, so Moore's law is pushing it to make you use more energy.
Yeah, it will come back to you. The cost will come back to you.
All right.
I'm really sorry for us bringing you loads of really depressing news.
Yeah.
I feel like we have got exciting things to talk about.
Do we?
I think I just suddenly realised when we were like, oh, it's going to be awful.
Well, shall we talk about Apple?
Yes. This
Okay.
is.
I mean, it's not great news.
I know,
but
but the core of it is good.
Right,
news.
let's move on to talk about a concrete dispute happening at the moment, which involves UTAW members in the Cambridge Apple store. I know you've been working closely with these guys. And what's the situation?
Yeah, so UTAW represents members. Well, it represents members in Apple all over the UK, and a substantial part of that is retail workers. So you've got people who are, working in the shop, in the Apple stores when you go into them, and all of the stock rooms, all of the people who do, repair your laptop, repair your phone, all of their sort of, business sales infrastructure. So that all comes as part of the branch. So yeah, in Cambridge specifically, we're organising the retail store in Cambridge at the moment. I mean, the big issues in Cambridge basically are that, Cambridge has London rents but not London wages. It's an incredibly expensive place to live. A huge part of our membership in that shop, they don't live in Cambridge. They can't afford to live in the town that they work in. They can't afford to shop in the shop that they work in. There's I mean, money is always a huge part of any trade union campaign. And we've also got other issues in Apple as well. I mean, we've got we've got kind of the beginnings of AI and automation kind of slowly slipping into jobs as well. So we've got things like things being outsourced that might have previously happened locally. So we've got you at one point you might have dropped your laptop to be repaired in one of the shops, and you have a skilled technician in the shop who repairs it and turns it around, and you get it back a couple of days later. And now we're seeing increasingly things being outsourced, so repairs being sent away. So we've got your laptop might get sent to the Czech Republic to be repaired, and then take a week or 10 days to come back to the shop. All in the aid of cheaper labour and lesser working conditions and warehouse conditions in another country. So we've got all of this kind of skilled labour slowly being eroded and outsourced, and fewer people in those positions locally. So that's a huge issue. We've seen over the last couple of years across Apple retail, the kind of overall headcounts of the teams kind of shrink significantly. So yeah, they're all being either asked to do more with fewer resources, or just having tasks moved elsewhere and automated. We've got this kind of gradual creep of AI coming into things. So we're seeing members talk about this process whereby someone comes into the shop to buy something. And their process is basically to ingest data from the person. So, scan their phone, find out what they have. Do they have a laptop or an iPad or whatever it is, and then kind of use a AI recommendation system to essentially sell them new things, rather than maybe actually having trained skilled staff who
do that,
who know what's available to sell. So we've got the kind of gradual creep of a lot of the things we're talking about coming into it, which is it's certainly a big concern for our members long term. And then we've got this kind of local thing that's coming as part of that, which is that as part of Apple kind of shrinking its team sizes, we've got this creep of quite insidious disability discrimination coming in as part of it. So our reps within Apple see a huge amount of casework to do with essentially incapacity investigations. So if you have a disability, you might find that you end up taking more time off work than other people, and we've seen this kind of process come in where they're putting a lot of effort into investigating and gradually removing people because of that. So yeah, I mean,
is that particularly into sort of mental health problems that people struggle to prove?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it can be mental health problems, but it also, I mean, it can really be any form of disability, and it's just that those issues where they relate to absences are being scrutinised in a way that they just weren't previously.
And I thought that Apple was our positive story.
No, because it's going to get on.
Okay.
So what? The Apple bit's going to get on to being public positive. because our final story is on
You're
Congo.
organising.
But
Oh, we're not.
Yeah,
we're
I mean, the
not talking about
positive is that we're organising.
the positive is you're organising.
So we're,
Positives here. It's
Yeah.
not all bleak. Go on.
So,
Tell us.
like, we're heading towards a ballot. So basically, the CAC have ordered a ballot for the shop. So this will be a ballot on statutory recognition for our staff there, which is fantastic. Really hoping that wraps up by the end of the year. We're seeing Apple respond to that in quite strong, scary ways to some extent. We're seeing over like this weekend gone, all of the staff in the shop were subject to captive audience meetings. So we'd have you'd have managers from the shop basically come in and brief them all against the union and tell them that the union aren't going to negotiate you better conditions, the union aren't able to get you better shifts. We had a situation where people were told that the union wouldn't negotiate them better shifts, and then later on in the day separately take new part-time members of staff and offer them overtime. I mean, I take that as a win in and of itself, which is pretty great. There's this kind of playbook basically that Apple's enacting, and it's very familiar to us. Apple retail stores have been organising all over the world, certainly in the last couple of years, organising in the US for the first time. Our sister union, ACOR, who are a branch of the Machinists and Aerospace Union, they represent one of the Apple stores in the US, and they sent us this week essentially a script that was used by management in the US to brief staff against against the union there, and we were really seeing exactly those same talking points being wheeled out in the UK as well. In the US, Apple, they retain the services of a law firm that are also, that work with Starbucks and McDonald's, and I think Amazon as well are the same one. So they have this kind of quite consistent playbook, although that law firm might not directly be operating in the UK, that all of the same playbook tactics are being rolled out in the UK. Exactly the same. So it's quite a unique campaign in that we're able to basically anticipate what's going to happen based on working with international unions who are doing exactly the same thing.
Are there any Apple stores that do have a recognised union in the UK?
Yeah, there's one in Glasgow with a different union, with the GMB, and then we're organising basically all of the other ones.
And is there an implicit, because it's always the dilemma any trade unionists face which is one of the things you're protesting is that they're sending jobs to the Czech Republic. Is Apple implicitly saying, well, by the way, if you join a union, those jobs are going to go to the Czech Republic even quicker?
No, not at all. No, and actually, one of the strange things is that on a sort of individual day-to-day level, it's sometimes seen as a bit of a convenience, because it means that the sort of massive workload that's come in by reducing the amount of staff is kind of being eased a little bit. So it's to some extent internally, at least, not entirely unpopular that some things are outsourced, but it does, at the end of the day, result in there being less jobs available for people locally, and also there's a knock-on effect, which is it's worse for the public as well, because their repair is it's taking 3 times as long, because it's getting on a lorry and driving across Europe.
What is so when I heard that this was the Apple store, what counts as a tech job? Because I suppose, do you know what I mean? Where does the...
It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. A lot of our members will be, engineers and programmers and data scientists, and absolutely those things we totally consider tech jobs. But tech jobs can be, a huge variety of things. So yes, we've got, a large number of retail workers. In Apple, again, we've got lots of technicians, so lots of people who work with screwdrivers rather than writing code. But then you've also got people in logistics. You've got customer service workers. You've got the content moderators at TikTok. So there's a huge number of jobs at sort of all ends of the wage scale. And yeah, I suppose it's something that isn't spoken about enough, that a huge amount of the tech sector is at the low end of it and is at the retail end of it. And our retail workers, our content moderators, they're really not making that much more than your average supermarket worker.
Sometimes they're making less because actually supermarkets have recently really increased how much they're paying their workers. So a lot of people's salaries are being eclipsed. You might as well just quit and work in Sainsbury's. I think it would be better. I think they'd treat you nicer as well, to be honest.
We had that at TikTok where some people were finding if they did go and work at like Waitrose, right, like one of the higher paid supermarkets, that they would have had it would be better. They would be clocking on and off. They'd know when they would have a work-life balance, whereas they didn't get that at TikTok.
Because I suppose traditionally for the coders or the people working at sort of like what someone might more traditionally think of as a tech job, like the popular impression was that you got paid very well, you got good holidays, you got to sit on lots of bean bags, and there would be table tennis.
Yeah.
There is still table tennis.
That's the thing. A lot of these things still exist. And that's what lured a lot of people in the beginning. But I think that with all of these like cost-cutting things, which is what is going on whenever someone is doing layoffs, they're trying to cut costs so that they can look like they're making more money than they are making at the moment. So when you are being squeezed for like increase the profits, things like your benefits are the first things to go. So those are the things that you don't think about. The bean bags, maybe they'll have to sell the bean bags now. There's no more maybe there's no more free coffee. Maybe there's no more free breakfast. All of those things will be disappearing over time as your company is like pushing, especially in tech, like where they're really pushing to like make a profit or become profitable, or what's going on there. But I think some of the other benefits that people associate with working in a tech company kind of do also get outweighed sometimes by the pressures that are put on people who are working in tech. A lot of tech workers, including coders, will be working above the hours that they're contracted for. Like if they're supposed to be working 9 till 5, they'll be working like maybe 9 till like 8 or 9 or whatever to get the actual demands of what they're being asked to do done. And a lot of those people, the same people who are doing these extra hours, they're not going to be paid extra for doing those extra hours. It's just kind of expected of you that you're one of those work hard, play hard, you put in for the company, you give above and beyond. And if you don't, you'll either be fired or you'll find that you're not going to be able to progress through the company if you're not the person who's staying behind doing all of that stuff.
I think that like the benefits package thing is something that our members at Apple talk about as well. Like Apple does give, their wages are high street wages, but they do have a substantial benefit package sort of befitting a big American tech giant. So they are getting things like private healthcare and education reimbursement schemes and things like that. The problem is that while your high street wages might go up a little bit, a level which is probably slightly below inflation each year, the benefits packages don't change. You're not getting 5% more pizza party and 5% more beanbag. Those things remain.
But they still might be paying 5% more for the beanbag. And
I'm sure the beanbags are getting more expensive. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure that the times like the amount that you'll see the pizza and the amount that you'll see the beanbag would decrease also equivalently. So maybe you would have had a pizza every single month, and maybe it will turn to 2 months every 2 months. So like. The cost will be cut at some point, and it's not something that you can really renegotiate either. So,
this reminds me actually of another question I was going to talk about earlier when we were talking about NVIDIA, which is all this talk about an AI bubble crashing, which, I mean, is that something that tech workers are worried about? Because presumably that would potentially mean not the big companies, but some of the smaller startup companies maybe going bust, and some of the other big companies trying to cut costs. Is sort of people in the pubs around Farringdon where they all work, are they all feeling a bit nervous about a bubble?
The thing is, I don't think that people who actually work in tech care about this bubble, because like the bubble is just not real. Like the AI bubble, the story that's being sold to people across the country, it's not real. It's not really reflective. It's just marketing, basically. That's what it is. Like AI is not. It will eventually replace a lot of these jobs. But most the people who you're talking about in Farringdon, like they're fine. Like they're the people who are doing it. Like some of them.
I was thinking like, are people scared? I've never heard anyone be scared, but maybe I'm just not talking to the right people.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, but it's because, like you said, it's marketing. It doesn't exist. Like when the bubble bursts, it'll just mean that companies stop saying AI a lot. Like the metaverse, right? When everyone was talking about meta, the metaverse and stuff like this, people stopped doing it because it was no longer pleasing shareholders.
Yeah.
That's what happened with AI. Automated things will still exist as they did before the AI bubble, but it's not going to like affect tech workers or people when it bursts.
Yeah, and I think because when you're working in it, you know that it's not at the place where it needs to be for your your job to be fully gone yet. But what it is something that companies can use to impress their shareholders who obviously don't know anything about AI, and they're all really impressed by the sound of it, right? So
it's like at the millennium when all the kebab shops became like Millennium Kebab.
Yeah,
they still were kebab shops, right? It was just still.
But I mean, I think that I think I'm more. I think AI is a more fundamentally revolutionary technology than is the official UTAW position.
But it's definitely revolutionary.
The bubble isn't about the technology.
Yeah,
the bubble is about the amount of money that like is going into companies.
Yeah.
And like when that money goes, people will probably be like, "Oh, wait a second, we can't excel at this level because we physically can't pay for data." GPUs and chips.
Well, I suppose to be honest, the inflated stock prices of most of the companies isn't going on workers anyway. It's going on GPUs.
Exactly.
So if the bubble crashes, they just can't afford any more data centers, and it's not necessarily going to affect jobs that much. But I mean, like with the .com crash, what happened is that there was sort of around the big companies, you had lots of smaller companies that would have employed a few people, and they all went bust, so they would have lost their jobs. But I don't know if
because that's the difference. One of the main issues that we have in the tech sector is that the profits of the owners are like orders of magnitude higher than the salary of even like a high earning person. Therefore, like a bubble that affects like stock prices is going to affect the CEO probably, but not as much the workers because they're already being underpaid a lot of the time. And those little companies don't exist because AI is consolidating companies into smaller and smaller. That's why Nvidia is, however many trillion that was, and it's the first company ever to do that because there aren't those little companies. You can't set up a company. Me like Edwin and Shireen can't set up an AI company and make money off an AI bubble. You know what I mean? Like we can't do that. We have to be like trillionaires to even get involved.
Yeah.
So.
And if you were making anything that was worth buying, they would have bought you up.
Yeah.
So there's not that many.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be that. Well, that's if you. So you start a company, then you try and get your sort of you get a buzz about you, and then you try and get bought up, or you have an IPO. So I suppose if you haven't done the IPO yet, or you haven't sold yourself out yet, then you want that to happen before the bubble bursts. So I suppose if you were to start a business now, you should sell it quickly.
Well, that's just like if you're doing an AI specific business, probably before all the chips are sold out, you wanna.
Well, you wouldn't. I think the smaller people are going to be sort of like making an AI model that can do your tax return, or make an AI model that can send nice texts to your mom or something like. It'll be the user side that you'll have startups.
Yeah, but I think
not the chip side.
I mean, you've got genuinely useful things that AI can accomplish. You can apply AI to protein folding and potentially massively increase the speed that you're able to come up with big sort of medical breakthroughs. And then you've got the people who the people will be put out of work because the rest of us are using ChatGPT to do things that we might have either previously employed a I don't know, an accountant or a lawyer to do, which is terrifying to some extent in any way. And but all of these generative chat models, I'm sure they're getting slightly better each year at doing these things. And those are the people who are super at risk first of all. But then there's a lot of things where it's just like AI is applied because it sounds good and it makes a company sound like they're kind of like they're relevant and if they say the word AI. I really like the example that one of our Apple members gave us, which was that they're judged heavily on receiving good customer feedback surveys, but they've increasingly found that those customer feedback surveys are just being written by ChatGPT. So people are using ChatGPT to write complaints thinking that they're going to, get something for nothing. But then the management in the shops are then replying to those ChatGPT written complaints with ChatGPT. So you've just got AI talking to AI. No one's better off because of that. And ultimately people are assessed on the quality of their job by the job that's actually been done by two different AIs talking to each other. No one wins from that situation. It's just what's the word? Putting out fire with fire. You're just burning CO2 for no one.
That's definitely one of the things that is concerning. And I think that one of the things that we are kind of worried about, and one of the things that I think employees should be worried about, is the fact that a lot of companies are firing their HR staff. Especially when people want to make profit, the first people to go is always HR. It's always HR, the people team, marketing, and operations. Those are the areas where companies can always cut people. And when that happens, I think some of the solutions that they're looking into is just replacing HR people with AI. With chatbots and stuff like that. So you will possibly be looking at in the future a chatbot looking at your CV. Or assessing how much you're going to get paid and looking at the quality of your work. And then the conversation then turns to who coded that? What does the coder think? Because if you're looking at someone like Elon Musk and Grok, someone who actually is going to go into their code and say, white people are better than all other races, or, I'm not even going to really go into that much. But if someone like that has written the code, which is then reading your application, what you'll find is that maybe all of the top jobs are going to white people again. That's the thing that should be that you should be kind of concerned about. But I guess if you're a white man, it's probably going to be fine no matter what happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, AI when applied to policing and facial recognition is, massively fraught with issues with bias.
Yeah,
you've got even talking about Elon Musk and Grok. They just announced what was it, Grokopedia?
Grokopedia,
yeah.
It's basically a sort of AI slopified Wikipedia where it basically, it presents itself to be like a sort of Wikipedia thing where it's essentially using AI to give you the information. Yeah. But it's basically just crawling actual Wikipedia and then applying an AI conservative filter to the information that it gets.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the biggest issue with AI. I don't think that but this is also just from me talking to the people who work in the tech sector that I'm coming across. They're not really talking about how they're scared of the AI like that. The only concerns about AI is just who's coding it and then what do they want?
Because the AI, but when we say we're not that concerned about the AI bubble, we're kind of almost, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
AI we are concerned about because it isn't good for the world.
Yeah.
It isn't good for people, and it's because of how it's being used or how it's being coded.
Let's move on to our final story, which is about Congo. Congo, obviously very relevant to the tech sector because in particular coltan and cobalt are mined predominantly there, needed for batteries in sort of everything we use essentially. There was a Congo week last week. I'm going to go to you guys in a moment. First, let's go to a clip because UTAW held an event, and this was actually back in May, and with Maurice Carney, co-founder and executive director of Friends of Congo. This is part of what he said.
Organizing around the Congo is difficult. It's challenging. And in large part because of the colonial legacy, right? Because the colonial legacy is not solely a question of underdevelopment where lack of roads, lack of communications infrastructure, just lack of everything, right? I think we all understand that around in regard to the colonial legacy. However, a key component of the colonial legacy is the colonial gaze. And that colonial gaze obtains to this very day. And central to that colonial gaze is the ill-conceived notion that Africa is a dark continent, right? And a la Joseph Conrad, Congo is the heart of darkness. So when the United Nations says that the deadliest conflict in the world since World War II has occurred in the Congo, where an estimated 6 million people have perished, it doesn't capture people's attention because that's expected. It's what Africans do, they kill each other. By the way, those lives aren't as valuable. So there's no outrage, there's very little inquiry, there's the geostrategic battle that's unfolding around the scramble for the minerals, that's really not put in that context, right? So the biggest challenge has been engaging people in a way to pierce the veil of the colonial gaze so that they can see Congolese Africans as fully human. And in doing that, we have to engage people on multiple levels. So that's why we're so grateful to the tech and allied workers within, the union, the working group that's been formed in the semiconductor industry in Silicon Valley, where we're engaging folks to say, we would like for you to be in a process where you're in solidarity with the workers in the Congo. Because the Silicon Valley tech and allied workers, you're at the top of the supply chain. And if there is no bottom of the supply chain, there's no top.
So yeah, I suppose I wanted to get you guys' thoughts. So that gentleman there was sort of saying he wants tech workers to be acting in solidarity with people in these mines in Congo. What does that mean? Because I suppose it's quite abstract. What would it mean to act in solidarity with people working in mines in Congo?
I do think that was such a brilliant event that was organised by our international officer, Sherhan, and attended on the panel also was Jeremy Corbyn, who is raising this, who is sitting in the working group in government right now, in Parliament right now. So I guess what they are asking for is for maybe an open dialogue between our companies on our end and what's going on and those companies as well. So if I think the miners on the floor are requesting something from these bigger, larger mining companies, we should also be asking for the same thing from our side, that our companies are set those same expectations that the miners have on those companies, because all of us are using these batteries, or all of us are using cobalt in our batteries. We're using it for our green revolution, which is really important. Of course, we do want to move away from what we've been using previously and to make this a greener world. But when that's happening and when these companies are buying up cobalt, it's just making sure that the demands that we're making are the same as the demands that the miners have for themselves. They're the people who are on the land. It's their land. They own it, and they should be able to have an equal say in what's happening to them.
I suppose what kind of demands are being made, or if there is a saying, this is what we want you to help get that message to the people with the power at the top of these companies. What kind of messages were they, I suppose?
So like one of the big ones that they're doing is that these are artisanal miners that have been doing it for generations, right? And that was something that I really liked about that panel too, is that he was talking about like the connection between the land and stuff. And we think about cobalt as stuff that's in our phones, but for them it's been there for much longer. What they want is for companies when they're coming in, or even companies that are but local to Congo but are kind of taking advantage, to listen to them and like understand that they actually do know how to mine like ethically and as greenly as possible, and not undercut other companies as well. So
Also, yeah, I think they were quite concerned about the setting of the actual price that the cobalt is being sold for, because that is being the actual price that it's being sold for is consistently across, but the actual price is being determined by like French companies rather than like the people who are actually there. They will do that to make a profit, so they will reduce kind of like the cost that they're selling it for, but like everyday artisanal miners, they won't benefit from it be the cost being that low, but that's the only cost that they can sell it at. They can't try and get together and sell it higher. No one would buy it. So I think they want to be in the conversation around how much cobalt is being sold for as well, rather than just ignored.
Interesting. Anything more to add before we wrap up?
Is there anything else?
Thank you to my panel. That about does it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. We'll be back soon. Until then, stick with your union.